Did you know that some plants don't just repel insects with their smell, but actually produce natural chemicals that can kill pests? Many gardeners talk about using basil or mint to keep bugs away, but those plants mostly work through scent and only help a little. What most people don't realize is that there are plants that evolved real biochemical weapons. These plants produce compounds that can shut down an insect's nervous system, stop them from eating, prevent them from growing, and in some cases kill them within minutes. It's one of the most fascinating examples of how plants defend themselves because they can't run, hide, or physically fight back, so chemistry becomes their survival strategy. Over millions of years, insects have been eating plants, and plants have responded by developing stronger and more sophisticated defenses. The result is a silent chemical war happening in every garden and every forest. And the crazy part is that many modern pesticides are actually based on these natural plant chemicals. Scientists didn't invent most insecticides from nothing. They studied plants, isolated the compounds that were effective, and then created synthetic versions. Today, we're going to look at 5 plants that have scientifically proven insecticidal effects, not just folklore or gardening myths. These are plants that produce real toxic substances specifically designed to protect themselves from insects. Let's start with a plant that looks completely harmless and decorative, but produces one of the most effective natural insecticides ever discovered, the chrysanthemum. Most people see it as a pretty flower used in gardens or bouquets, but inside its flower heads it produces compounds called pyrethrins. These pyrethrins attack the nervous system of insects by forcing their nerve cells to fire uncontrollably, leading to paralysis and death. Interestingly, this is the same mechanism used by many commercial insecticides you can buy today, because synthetic pesticides called pyrethroids were developed based on the natural chemicals found in chrysanthemums. What makes this even more interesting is that pyrethrins are highly selective. Insects are extremely sensitive to them because their nervous systems are structured differently and they can't break down the compound fast enough. Humans and pets, on the other hand, process pyrethrins quickly in the liver, which makes the effect much weaker. This is why products like flea sprays for pets are often based on pyrethrins. They are strong enough to kill the insects, but generally safe for mammals when used correctly. Still, they should always be handled responsibly and kept away from pollinators like bees, because they can also be affected. The insecticidal power of chrysanthemums has been known for centuries. In the past, people would dry the flowers, grind them into a fine powder, and use it as a dust to kill insects in homes and on crops. This was called Persian insect powder, and it was widely used long before synthetic pesticides existed. Even today, some organic gardeners create simple extracts from dried chrysanthemum flowers by soaking them in warm water and spraying the liquid on infested plants. It's a natural method that can actually work, unlike many popular internet remedies. Another plant that has an even more fascinating way of dealing with insects is the neem tree. While chrysanthemums attack the nervous system, neem uses a completely different strategy. Instead of poisoning insects directly, it interferes with their hormones and development. Inside neem seeds and leaves there is a compound called azadirachtin, which is one of the most studied natural insect growth regulators in the world. When an insect comes into contact with it or consumes it, something remarkable happens. The insect simply stops eating. Its body can no longer process the signals that tell it to feed, so it begins to starve, even when food is available. For gardeners, this means that pests like aphids and whiteflies suddenly disappear, not because they were killed instantly, but because they slowly weaken and die off. Azadirachtin also blocks a hormone called ecdysone, which insects need to molt and grow. Without this hormone, the insect becomes stuck in its current stage of development. It can't shed its old exoskeleton, it can't mature, and it eventually dies. What makes neem especially valuable is that it affects several parts of the insect life cycle at once. It reduces feeding, prevents growth, blocks reproduction, and lowers survival rates. This makes it much harder for insects to develop resistance to it, which is a huge problem with many synthetic pesticides today. In organic farming and integrated pest management, neem-based products are widely used for this reason. However, many gardeners misunderstand how neem works. They expect instant results and think that spraying once will solve the problem. In reality, Neem requires patience. It works slowly, but the long-term effect is stronger and more sustainable. The most effective form of neem is cold-pressed oil because it contains the highest amount of azadirachtin. Many commercially available neem oils have been processed and contain far less active compound, which is why some people say neem does nothing. Used correctly, however, it can significantly reduce pest populations without harming plants. Now let's talk about something surprising: tomatoes. Most people grow tomatoes for their fruit and never think about the chemical defenses hidden in their leaves and stems. Tomato plants contain a natural compound called tomatine, which is toxic to many insects. It disrupts the cell membranes of soft-bodied pests like aphids and spider mites, causing their cells to leak and die. This is one of the reasons tomatoes often suffer less from aphid infestations than other plants such as peppers. The tomatine is concentrated in the green parts of the plant and in unripe fruit, which is why unripe tomatoes taste bitter and insects avoid them. What's truly fascinating is that as tomatoes ripen, the plant breaks down tomatine to make the fruit safe and appealing to animals. This ensures that the seeds are eaten and spread, while the leaves remain protected. Nature essentially designed a system where insects avoid the plant until the fruit is ready for distribution. This balance between toxicity and attractiveness is a brilliant evolutionary strategy. Another plant with a surprisingly powerful insecticidal effect is tobacco. Most people associate tobacco with smoking, but historically it was known primarily as an insect killer. The active compound in tobacco, nicotine, is a potent neurotoxin for insects. When an insect absorbs nicotine, either through contact or feeding, it overwhelms the insect nervous system. The nerve receptors begin firing uncontrollably, muscles lock up, breathing stops, and the insect dies very quickly. For small pests like aphids and thrips, nicotine can be fatal within minutes. This made tobacco extracts one of the earliest and most widely used natural insecticides in agriculture. For more than 200 years, farmers used something called tobacco tea, or nicotine tea, as a pesticide. They would soak tobacco leaves in water, creating a dark brown liquid, and spray it on crops. It was extremely effective, but eventually many countries banned or restricted its use because nicotine is also highly toxic to humans, pets, and beneficial insects. Nicotine can be absorbed through the skin, and even small amounts can cause poisoning. This is why modern gardeners should be careful when experimenting with homemade tobacco sprays. Although natural, they are far from harmless. Still, the fact that a common plant produces a compound strong enough to be used as a commercial pesticide shows just how effective plant defenses can be. Now, let's move to something even more fascinating and quite different from the previous examples. Some plants don't simply produce toxic chemicals in their tissues. They can actually create a material that remains effective for centuries. When certain plants, especially woody ones, are burned under low oxygen conditions, they form charcoal, also known as biochar. Biochar itself is not an insecticide in the traditional sense, but it plays a crucial role in natural pest resistance. It creates a habitat in the soil where beneficial microbes thrive. These microbes suppress harmful organisms, improve nutrient availability, and strengthen plant immune responses. In many agricultural systems, soils enriched with biochar show lower pest pressure and healthier, more resilient plants. One of the most astonishing facts about biochar is its longevity. Once formed and incorporated into the soil, it can remain stable and biologically active for hundreds or even thousands of years. Archaeologists have discovered ancient soils in the Amazon, known as terra preta, which contain biochar created by indigenous peoples more than 1,000 years ago. These soils are still incredibly fertile today. This long-term stability makes biochar one of the most impressive natural tools for improving soil health and indirectly reducing pests. Instead of killing insects directly, it changes the entire soil ecosystem in favor of the plants. What ties all these examples together is the idea that plants have evolved incredibly diverse chemical and structural defenses. Some attack insect nervous systems within minutes, others disrupt growth and reproduction, and some change the environment around them to make it hostile to pests. This variety is why natural plant-based insect control can be so effective when used correctly. It also explains why many synthetic pesticides were inspired by plant chemistry. Scientists didn't create these ideas from nowhere. They studied natural systems and improved upon them. Understanding these natural insecticides also helps us see why some gardening tips online simply don't work. Many popular natural remedies rely on scent-based repelling effects, which are weak and inconsistent. Placing basil next to tomatoes might smell nice, but it rarely stops a determined aphid colony. In contrast, the plants we've talked about today use real biochemical weapons that insects cannot ignore. When a compound affects an insect's nervous system or disrupts its hormones, the result is measurable and scientifically proven. This difference between folklore and real plant chemistry is what separates effective natural pest control from wishful thinking. Another important takeaway is that natural does not automatically mean safe. Some of the compounds plants produce are powerful enough to harm humans and animals if used incorrectly. Nicotine, for example, is a natural compound, but it is extremely toxic in concentrated form. The same goes for strong chrysanthemum extracts, which can kill beneficial insects if applied carelessly. This is why understanding how these plant defenses work is essential before using them. Natural methods can be effective, but they require knowledge and responsibility. Simply spraying homemade mixtures without knowing their effects can do more harm than good. At the same time, these plants offer exciting opportunities for gardeners who want to reduce chemical pesticide use. Using cold-pressed neem oil correctly can significantly lower pest populations without damaging the ecosystem. Growing chrysanthemums and using their dried flowers as a mild spray can help control soft-bodied insects in a more sustainable way. Even tomato leaf extracts, when used carefully, can provide targeted pest control. And incorporating biochar into garden soil can improve long-term plant health and resilience, reducing the need for treatments altogether. One of the most fascinating concepts in all of this is coevolution. Insects and plants have been battling each other for millions of years. Every time insects adapt to a plant's defense, the plant evolves a new strategy. This ongoing arms race has created some of the most advanced biochemical systems in nature. When we use these natural compounds in gardening, we're essentially borrowing weapons that plants developed through countless generations of evolution. This perspective makes gardening feel like part of a much bigger story, connecting us to ancient ecological processes. It also explains why integrating multiple strategies works best. When a garden relies on only one method of pest control, insects can adapt more easily. But when the environment includes healthy soil, diverse plant species, natural predators, and plant-based insecticides, pests have a much harder time surviving. This holistic approach is more sustainable and aligns with how natural ecosystems function. The goal isn't to eliminate every insect, but to create a balanced system where pests don't reach damaging levels. Many gardeners feel overwhelmed when pests appear, thinking they need strong chemicals to protect their plants. But learning about natural plant defenses shows that there are powerful alternatives. You don't always need synthetic pesticides to maintain a healthy garden. Sometimes the plants themselves provide the tools you need. Whether it's a flower producing neurotoxins, a tree interfering with insect hormones, a vegetable generating membrane-destroying compounds, or soil enriched with ancient biochar supporting beneficial microbes, nature offers solutions that are both effective and fascinating. So the next time you look at your garden, remember that there is an invisible battle happening beneath the surface and within the leaves. Plants are not passive. They are constantly defending themselves, adapting, and developing new strategies to survive. By understanding and using these natural defenses, we can garden in a way that is smarter, safer, and more connected to the natural world. If you found this interesting and want to learn more about how plants protect themselves and how you can use natural methods to improve your garden, make sure to subscribe and follow along. There is so much more to explore, from beneficial insects to plant immunity and soil biology. Gardening becomes far more rewarding when you understand the science behind it, and I'm excited to share more with you in future videos.